The Guild is Maximum Lawyers' community of legal entrepreneurs who are taking their businesses and lives to the next level. As a Guild member, you'll build relationships, be held accountable, and learn strategies specifically designed to get you unstuck and accelerate your plan for growth. Members are also granted exclusive access to masterminds hosted around the country. Our next event is coming up, and we're heading to Scottsdale, Arizona. There's something truly magical about the power of these in-person connections where real-time breakthroughs happen. Picture this. You're surrounded by like-minded law firm owners tackling your business and mindset challenges together. The energy is electric, the insights are transformative, and the results are game-changing. Investing in yourself is the best decision you'll ever make. The knowledge, strategies, and breakthroughs you'll gain are priceless assets that will supercharge your practice and propel you forward. Join the Guild and secure your ticket to Scottsdale at the best possible price by visiting maxlawevents.com.
Run your law firm the right way. This is the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. Your hosts, Jim Hacking and Tyson Mutrux. Let's partner up and maximize your firm. Welcome to the show.
Welcome back to the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. I'm Jim Hacking.
And I'm Tyson Mutrux. What's up, Jimmy?
Well, Tyson, we've had so many episodes in the can that we are trying to clear out that backlog, so we haven't recorded for a while. Now, we still have a bunch in the can. I'm not exactly sure how that happened because we haven't been actively doing our Tuesday morning. We usually record these at Tuesdays at 8 a.m. Central Time, but I'm glad to get back in the saddle, and I feel like I haven't seen much of you for the last couple of weeks.
I know it's been kind of nice for me, man. Just teasing. No, it's weird. We've taken almost a month off of recording. We've been doing things in the Guild, but it's been, we've had a nice little, Tuesday mornings off for a little bit. It's been kind of nice, but it's good to get back in the saddle though. It's good to see you. I do like seeing you, so it's good to start recording again.
Well, let me introduce our guest today. Her name is Emilia Coto. She's a immigration lawyer in Canada and in Michigan. We're really excited to have her. She's been a great member of the Guild, and she asks lots of good questions and is always contributing. We're glad to have her. So welcome to the show, Emilia.
Thanks for having me, Jim and Tyson. It's such a pleasure to be here.
So, Emilia, tell us about your background, but also tell us and how you got to where you are now. But do you pronounce it Sisu legal, or how do you pronounce it?
Yeah, you nailed it.
Yes, nice. All right, well, tell us about your background and how you got to where you are now.
Sure. Yeah. So I was born in Honduras, moved to Canada when I was in grade 3 or 4, and then moved to a little town called Elmer and went to undergrad for kinesiology. Thought I was going to do something like healthcare related. Turned out I didn't really like the patient interaction, or I didn't really find it that interesting. So I ended up taking the LSAT, going to law school in Windsor. And then after that, stayed in Windsor at a full service firm for about 3 years. And that was working out really well. I had really good mentorship, which was, my favorite part about being there. But then I got married and moved to Michigan because I didn't have any family in Windsor. All my husband's family was in Michigan. So moved to Michigan. And then the commute was not working out for me. And because it was a more traditional law firm, they did try to be accommodating, but I could just tell that it wasn't going to be a long-term thing. So I ended up quitting my job in October of 2019. Didn't have much of a plan other than I was going to study for the bar in the States. And then I was still applying for jobs. And that was the plan. It wasn't really to go out on my own. But then I had one good thing about the commutes is I had found the Maximum Lawyer podcast and a couple other podcasts about, solo and small firm lawyers. And so I had that in the back of my mind. And then after I got a couple sort of lowball offers and just nothing that I was really excited about, I decided to just take the plunge. And right after the bar, opened up my own firm in March of 2020, which was great timing. But Sisu actually means it's sort of related to resilience. So I picked the name before 2020 happened. And I think it was a really good year in learning how to be resilient and learning to just kind of roll with the punches. So yeah, it's been a good almost 1 year so far.
That's awesome. Tell us about the day after you quit your job and the day that you started your firm. Tell us about those 2 days.
Okay, so the day after I quit my job, it was sad. I was really sad because I When I started my time at that firm, I really thought that it was going to be a forever kind of place. I'm not the biggest fan of change. So I was, just happy to land in a place where there was good people. And yeah, so leaving that was sad for me because I really liked the people, the mentorship. But at the same time, I just felt so relieved because I had known probably for about, a while before I actually quit my job that it wasn't going to work out, just because part of it was the culture too. I think I'm a lot not as traditional. And the other part was just logistic wise. It wasn't going to work for me to be commuting every day, crossing borders. I mean, I didn't know 2020 was coming, but I think it was good timing because it would have been very, very difficult to do that. And then you asked about the day that I opened my firm. So I think I decided around, I want to say like mid-January, February that it was going to happen. And so I would say that my biggest fear at the time was not getting enough clients, and I still have student debt that I had to pay. So I definitely have like a monthly minimum that I had to meet. And yeah, so what I did to plan for that was I just reached out to everyone I know and tried to tell them that I was doing that. And thankfully, I actually started my firm with quite a few clients because I used to work at a legal clinic. And so there was this big human trafficking case and they needed help with humanitarian and compassionate grounds application. So having that connection really helped me get started, not from zero, which I really appreciated. And it's really rewarding work. So yeah, it's worked out so far.
You see, you do immigration. I don't know why I've never asked you this question, but do you help people immigrate to the US or to Canada or both?
Yeah, so I've been focused on Canada only. And I am in the process of, I have office space and everything in Michigan, and will be hopefully starting to help people immigrate to the States fairly
Very
shortly.
cool. That's awesome. Yeah. I don't know why that never clicked with me. But so tell me, do you use your personal story whenever you're connecting with your clients? And if so, how do you do that?
Yeah, I definitely do, especially with my Spanish-speaking clients. I always share my background. I share that I wasn't born in Canada. I immigrated as a young girl. I know sort of like all the sacrifices that parents have to make in order for their kids to have a better life, more opportunities. So I can definitely relate with that. It's on my website. I think I could do a better job. And it's actually one of my goals to do a lot more video and to sort of share more bits of my personal story. But I do one of the first blog post that I ever released on my website was about just sharing a little bit of the story of like what it was like to actually move and who picked us up at the airport and all those things. So,
Emilia, what lessons have you learned since opening your firm almost a year ago?
I've learned a lot, but I would say if I had to focus on one of the biggest lessons is that I did not, I guess like the whole mindset piece was not in my radar at all. Like when I was about to open my firm, I was really just focused on the logistics, like making sure that I knew what I was doing. I did do a bit of a change in practice area, even though I had done immigration when I was at the legal clinic. My background was more in litigation and employment law at my previous firm. So I really focused on the practical things. And I think the biggest struggle, if I had to say one, and the biggest lesson is the mindset piece and how basically everything revolves around that. And just I think I also didn't realize how important it would be to have community. And that was one thing that, and you didn't ask me to say that, but joining the Guild was definitely really influential for me because especially when I was struggling with mindset and feeling like, oh my goodness, did I make the right decision? What was I thinking? Should I start looking for a job again? It really helped to see other people going after sort of what I wanted to do. And just seeing really successful people also have struggle days was really helpful because I didn't feel like it was just me. So yeah, I would say mindset and community, really, really important. And I hope to kind of continue working on that.
So let's dig a little deeper on that because I agree. The value of having a community, no matter what the community is, whether it's the Max Law big group, the small group, it's great. But what are some of the other? I'm gonna kind of use this almost like a hot seat for you. What are some other challenges that you're facing that maybe we can dig a little deeper on and try to help you out with?
Yeah, I think something that I don't know how to really put into words, but I remember one of my first like struggle posts that I posted in the guild was, like I mentioned before, when I was starting my firm, the biggest fear that I had was not getting enough clients. And then when I did start getting clients and when the phone started to ring, it's like I would find any possible reason to just refer it because I don't know, like I was just afraid that I was going to mess it up. I was afraid that, they could find someone else that could do it better. And, it started like I started to keep track of like the financial impact of referring because I also, don't ask for referral fees. And it was like, what am I doing? Why am I sending these clients out? Why don't I believe that I can do a good job for them? And I think I've definitely improved. Like I don't do that as much anymore, but there's still some sort of like resistance to growth, even though I really want to grow. There's like I don't know. I just like the comfort of going slowly and, so that's sort of, I do struggle with that, I would say continuously, even though I am getting better.
Hey, Jimmy, I gotta follow up to that. Amelia, because I actually distinctly remember that post and I remember the responses. What were the takeaways that you remember from the responses from people?
Yeah, I mean, when you share something and then you kind of like get like a vulnerability hangover, I definitely have that with that post. But no, like that was so awesome. That was sort of like, I think, what solidified for me that I was in the right community for me. But it was a lot of people relating, like been there, done that. There was, like encouragement in terms of like, think about it deeper, because it was one specific file and I remember it. And so like people were thinking like, did you actually refer it because you it is the type of case that you wanted, or maybe it was a good thing that you referred it. And I think that post was also where it started to be, I think it was Paul Yokovitis that mentioned that for him, this was definitely like a mindset thing and that I had to work through that in order to grow. And, he's had tremendous growth. So once he said that, I was like, okay, I'm going to start looking into this and figuring out what this all means and what I have to work on and everything. So
The Guild is an insanely productive community of lawyer entrepreneurs with a growth mindset who share their collective genius and hold each other accountable to take their careers and businesses to the next level. But in 2021, we are upping the game. In addition to exclusive access to the group, FaceTime with the two of us, discounted pricing for live events, and front seat exposure to live recording and podcasts and video, we are mapping out for members the exact growth playbook with our new program, Maximum Lawyer in Minimum Time.
As a Guild member, you'll build relationships and experience content specifically designed to complement your plan for growth. For a limited time only, the Maximum Lawyer in Minimum Time program will be offered for free to all new Guild members. Join us by going to maxlawguild.com. We're talking today with Emilia Coto. She's an immigration lawyer practicing in Canada and in the States. You just uttered a phrase that I'm going to latch onto, the vulnerability hangover. I think that's great. And I think that for all of us, we have our best breakthroughs when we admit that we're not perfect and we admit that there's things that we don't know. What are some other things that you've learned either in the Guild or outside the Guild, just generally, that have helped you, especially now? Because I know based on conversations that you and I have had about your plan to sort of solidify your practice on the state side.
There's so many. I don't know where to begin. Some of the things. Okay. I think one of the biggest things is that it doesn't matter if you're just starting out or if you're, already $1 million firm or beyond. There's always going to be resistance to growth. There's always going to be different challenges, and it's never going to be just, okay, I got to this level. Now I got it all figured out and I know what I'm doing. I think that one of the biggest takeaways from the Guild is that it doesn't matter what level or where you are with your firm. There's always going to be new challenges. There's always going to be like unpredictable people situations, whether it's with clients, whether it's with staffing. And it's just, I think, again, going back to community, that's why it is so important, especially if you're a solo, to find a community that will help you work through the tough days and sort of give you ideas on, there's so many ideas a lot of the times, but another thing that I like is that there's a lot of emphasis on also having one focus and not trying to do a million different things all the time. So like, for example, when I was planning ahead for this year, I had this idea that I was going to have this crazy plan. Like I had like 7 different things and 7 different goals that I wanted to tackle. And then when I posted in the guild, I can't remember who it was, but someone just said such a simple, like 3-letter, okay, this is my goal. And I thought, what, like, that's so much better. Like that's so much more achievable. That's, and it's still sort of encompass all of everything, but it helps to just have your focus be on 1 or 2 things instead of trying to fix everything in your firm at the same time.
So Emilia, in our questionnaire that we send out before the podcast, there's a question on there that really caught my attention. Your response is what caught my attention. Because the question is, if listeners only learn one thing from your interview, what would you want it to be? And you said, I want to inspire people to make choices that reflect their hopes and not their fears. And I really think that that's a reflection of how you run your firm, but I may be wrong. So what do you mean by that? It's a really interesting response.
Yeah. So first of all, I have to give credit for that quote. So that's a quote from Nelson Mandela. And he has a quote that says, may your life, I think it is, reflect your hopes and not your fears. And I think, when you are running your own practice, it is scary. And it definitely was scary for me because I didn't see myself doing it so soon. I don't know if I saw myself doing it ever. Really, it wasn't a thing that I always had in the back of my mind. And I think you do have to have sort of like a lot of optimism and a lot of just belief that you're there to help people, and that having a law degree and practicing law is such a privilege that it's important to not get lost in the weeds and just remembering the impact that lawyers can have on people. People trust lawyers with like their lives and really important aspects of their lives. And so I don't ever want to like lose sight of that. And I want other people to know, because I know that especially right now, it's such a hard time to find jobs. And a lot of times I think people settle for just the safety of it. I mean, as scary as it is, and as there's bad days and things like that, but I think that just starting my firm was one of the most fulfilling like life things I've ever done, because it really lets you dream and it lets you, like just basically go after your vision in a way that I never felt that I could when I was working for someone else.
That's so awesome. I love the quote. I love the whole mindset. I think you brought plenty of great mindset to the guild yourself, so don't sell yourself short. Where do you want to be 1 year from now? So if we have you back on the show a year from now, and then you have 2 years under your belt, what are the kinds of things that you want to have accomplished or that you want to be thinking about?
So this year, my big focus is on growing the US side of the practice. I kind of feel like I'm starting a firm all over again in the US. And so I think that it is going to be a little more challenging than it was in Canada, because as a relatively new immigrant myself, I don't have the, the community in my area as much as I would like to, and as much as I relied on like I did when I was starting in Canada. So the flip side on that is I think that it's really going to force me on doing my own outreach and building my own community. And so I'm hoping to do, more video, I'm going to be starting a podcast focused around immigration and resilience. So a year from now, I would like to have the US side of the practice growing and established and helping people move to the US.
I love it. Love it. Talk a little bit about your DIY Canadian spousal immigration course. Tell us about that. You got that in the works too.
Yeah, so that's something I'm working on. I think spousal and the whole family thing is something that a lot of people end up doing themselves. And sometimes I think there's a misleading notion that it's really simple. It can be, I think, if you do it all the time. But I also have seen the consequences, like, for example, people falling out of status and people being separated from their families for a long time if they do it wrong. And so I'm hoping that by I'm like a supported program where they still get some lawyer access, but it's a lot of DIY. I could offer it at a more affordable price range and just help more people. So that's the plan. I've been working on it for a while, and I think it's, again, one of those mindset things that I'm like, I don't know, like the DIY space can be scary. I don't know why. I think for me, it's I don't want to get into liability issues and figuring out the logistics of it, but it's definitely coming this year.
All right, so I get the last question, Emilia, and my question to you is, what are you scared of right now? What's worrying you? What's keeping you up?
Sometimes it feels like things are going really well, like right now, and I feel like things are going along smoothly. And sometimes I don't know if it's just like my personality, I tend to be a little bit on the anxious side. And I think, like sometimes I just fear something's gonna go wrong out of nowhere. And I think 2020, was a weird year for that. So yeah, I hope I don't let myself get in my way. And I think that I can help a lot of people. And yeah, I think my biggest fear would probably be letting myself get in the way and not allowing myself to help as many people as I can.
And I think your ability to know that you can get in your own way. And Jim had the same thing. I think we all have these things where we're the log jams, or just our mindset can restrict us. And so I think just the fact that you know that, you recognize it is going to put you way ahead of where you were. So that's awesome. All right, we do need to wrap things up. Before I do, I want to remind everyone to go to the Facebook group, get involved there in the big group. Just search Maximum Lawyer. You should be able to find it pretty easily. And then if you're interested in the guild, go to maxlawguild.com and join us in the guild. Great people like Emilia are in there, and they're sharing their wealth of knowledge every day. Jimmy, what's your hack of the week?
Mine's a simple one. So for the last month or so, I've been working in 2 different places inside the office. I've been actually moving around the office. And I think I'm settling into a spot where I do certain work in one part of the office and other work in the other part of the office. But I don't know that that's for sure. But just breaking up the day and moving my body and getting to another part of the office just sort of helps me reset and to focus in a way that I can't when I'm just sitting in the same spot for 8 hours.
It's so incredible that you're giving this as your tip, because last week I spent most of my week in the conference room because it was just a different spot in the office. I needed to break it up a little bit. So I think you're spot on. I think that's great. Emilia, before I get to my tip, what is your tip or hack of the week?
So similar to Jim, I think it's going to focus around just moving. One of the things that I struggled with was finding the time to exercise, and sort of once I started working from home a lot, I found that I was working longer, not going into a routine as much. And the Peloton app, I don't have the fancy bike or the fancy treadmill, but they have really good classes. Like they even have walking, running, if you like to go outside, or they also have yoga, Pilates, like anything you like, they probably have it. And it's, I think it's like $13, $12 a month or something like that. So that's really helped to be motivated because they have a lot of fun music and different themes. So I would recommend that, adding that into your daily routine.
Perfect. Love it. And I've heard great things about that app. So that's perfect. And there is, I think, if you're in the guild, there is a Peloton group. So Emilia, are you part of that?
No, I think that's, you have to have the bike for that one.
You have to be on. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Jim ordered his Peloton, so that should be in a few weeks. So he'll be able to join the group. He's excited about that. So my tip is this. We've been talking a lot, I have with multiple people about their tech stacks and everything. And a couple weeks ago, I was just so frustrated that I was the point of contact for the entire firm for our tech stack. And it was driving me nuts. And Jim's had Kelsey for a long time. And so I decided to finally hire a tech stack manager. And I found someone through Upwork, and they're really great. And so now if I've got a question, I've got something that needs to be fixed or changed, I just contact them and say, hey, will you do this? And it's so much better than me doing it myself. And so I highly recommend getting a tech stack manager. You can pay them as a VA. You don't have to spend a bunch of money. It's actually fairly cheap compared to the amount of time that you spend yourself. All right, Emilia, it's been so wonderful getting to learn a little bit more about you. Thanks for taking the time to do this podcast. We appreciate it.
It's been such a pleasure to be here.
Great job. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Emilia.
Bye.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. To stay in contact with your hosts and to access more content, go to MaximumLawyer.com. Have a great week and catch you next time.